خاموشی حفظ کنین تا اینکه ما برنامه ماه مبارک رمضان به گوشتان برسانیم و بعد از او انشاءالله بعد از سخنرانی وقت زیاد خواهد بود برای قصه. So the program this month, every day we start at 6:30 with Quran Khwani. So we encourage everyone. This is the month of Quran, the month of the spring of Quran, Bahar Quran, we say it in Farsi. So we encourage everyone to please attend the Quran Khwani session. That's at 6:30 every day. After that, we have Dua Iftitah. After Dua Iftitah, we have Namaz. After Namaz, Iftar. After that, every night, we have 3 to 4 kids who are reciting Quran, and then there will be a surah, the translation of the surah, and then we will have a short speech by the kids, inshallah. And then after that, we have lecture. برادرها و خواهرای عزیز، اولتر از همه ماه مبارک رمضان، ماه نزول قرآن و رحمت الهی بر همگی مبارک باشه. اگر خواهرای عزیز یک لحظه خاموشی را مهربانی کنین با برکت ماه مبارک رمضان و حفظ کنین که من بتونم برنامه ماه مبارک رمضان به گوش همگی برسانم. هر روز ساعت 6:30 برنامه محفل انس با قرآن یا قرآن خوانی داریم. از همگی خواهش میکنیم که انشالله اشتراک کنن. ماه قرآن است، ماه بهار قرآن است، انشالله همگی از ثوابش بهره مند شوند. بعد از نماز، بعد از برنامه قرآن خوانی دعای افتتاح است، بعد از اون نماز، بعد از نماز افطار. بعد از افطار هر شب 3 یا 4 طفل اینجا میان سخنرانی میکنن، قرآن میخوانن و همچنان ترجمه سوره که خوانده میشه انشالله به گوش به سمع همگی رسانده میشه. و بعد از انشالله سخنرانی و در ختم هم همگی التماس دعا، از همگی التماس دعا. این بود برنامه ماه مبارک رمضان. هر روز ساعت 6:30 شروع میشه. کسایی که به تورنمنت پینگ پونگ ثبت نام نکردن، پینگ پونگ مسابقه تورنمنت خواهران روز جمعه است و از برادران روز شنبه. کسایی که تا بالا ثبت نام نکردن هنوز فرصت است، لینکش در گروپ چت به اشتراک گذاشتن، میتونن همگی ثبت نام کنن. و همچنان تورنمنت ساکر یا مسابقه فوتبال هفته آینده است روز شنبه. کسانی که تا بالا ثبت نام نکردن انشاءالله میتونن، هنوز فرصت است، ثبت نام کنن. کسایی که از 14 سال به پایین است فیس ثبت نام $10 و از کسایی که از 14 سال به بالا است $25. So the sports events, this Friday we have the ping pong tournament for ladies, and then on Saturday we have the ping pong tournament for brothers, for gentlemen. If you haven't signed up yet, you still have time. Please sign up. If you want to sign up in person or you have any question, brothers, please see Brother Riza Muradi or Dr. Hani Virjee. Sisters, please see Sister Yasemin for more information. And then the men's tournament finals will be towards the end of Ramadan. I think it's April 6th. So inshallah, the Saturday night will be just for the competition for men, Friday night for women, and then we'll have the finals of men the last Saturday of the Ramadan, inshallah, April 6th. Soccer tournament is next Saturday. If you have, next Friday, sorry. It's next Friday. So if you haven't signed up yet, please make sure you sign up. Kids, age 14 and under, $10. Age 14 and above, $25, inshallah. With that, please recite a loud salawat.
Salawat. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waz-dallin. Salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلنا لفي ليلة القدر وما أغ وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر صلوات.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات.
Today, Surah Al-Zilzal or Surah Al-Zilzala was recited, which means the quaking, and it has 8 verses. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficial, the Merciful. When the earth shall quake with a mighty quaking, and the earth shall cast forth her burdens, and man shall say, distressed, what has befallen her? On that day she will recount all her news, for that your Lord will have given her inspiration. On that day people shall come forth in groups today to be shown their deeds. So whoever has done and at alms weight of good shall be on it, and whoever has done an atman weight of evil shall behold it. Salawat.
Sister Rubina.
Today we will talk about Surah Al-Zalzala or Zilzal. It means the quaking. It is chapter number 99 of the Holy Quran. It has 8 verses and it was revealed in Medina. This surah begins by mentioning the earthquake, announcing the day of judgment which will make the earth lay open her secrets. It pivots on 3 points. First, it speaks about the preliminary signs of the hereafter, and then it tells us about the earth as a witness to all of the human beings' deeds. In the third part, people are divided into two groups, good and evil, each of which will receive the fruit of their own actions. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is reported to have said, "Never be wary of reciting Surah al-Zalzala, number 99, frequently, because whoever recites the surah in his mustahab or nafila prayers will be saved by Allah, the Almighty and all exalted from being hit by an earthquake and will not be caused to die because of an earthquake, a thunderbolt, or any other natural catastrophes. Rather, he will die naturally. When he dies, a noble angel will come to him from the side of the Lord, sit at the side of his head, and say to the angel of death, be lengthened while grasping the soul of this friend of Allah, for he used to refer to the Lord very much. Therefore, the angel of death will take out the soul of that servant as lengthened as possible, so that he will suffer from the least agonies of death. Then his soul will be escorted by 70,000 angels to paradise at the least time. The Holy Prophet says, he who recites it, Surah Zilzal, it is the same as if he had recited Surah Baqarah. His reward is as much as the one who would have recited 1/4 of the Quran. Another tradition from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, be never tired of reciting it, Surah Zilzal, because everyone who recites it in his optional prayers will never be involved in an earthquake, and he would not die by it, nor should he be hurt by the lightning or any worldly pest until he dies. There is a tradition which says that once a man came to the Holy Prophet and asked him to teach him something from what Allah had taught him. The Holy Prophet sent him to one of his followers to teach him the Quran. He taught the man Surah Zilzal to the end. Then the man was ready to leave, saying that was sufficient for him. Another narration has cited that he said that very verse alone was sufficient for him. The Holy Prophet said, let him go, since he became a scholar. And according to another narration, he said he returned as a scholar. The reason is clear, because he knows his deeds will be counted later, even those that are as small as a mustard seed. Will pay careful attention to his actions today, and this is the best lesson to train him. Furthermore, on the day of judgment, one good action will be counted 10 to 700 times as much for those that Allah's wills, while one sin will be counted as one for divine punishment, and Allah is forgiving. O Lord, when your messenger, with that great rank he has, is hopeful only to your forgiveness, our condition is obvious. O Lord, our good deeds are not to save us, but happiness is when your grace comes forth to help. O Lord, on the day when all deeds, good and evil, will be embodied in front of us, we hope for your profound favor alone. Amen. Salawat.
Thank you. Please recite a salawat for Sister Muhaddisa, Sister Rubina, Brother Zohaid, Brother Hassan, and Brother Abul Fazl. Please recite a loud salawat. And also thank you everyone, brothers and sisters, for listening carefully to these kids, because they put a lot of effort and time, so it's important that we listen to them. خواران عزیز، تشکر بسیار زیاد از اینکه در جریان سخنرانی و قرآن خواندن اطفال خاموشی را حفظ کردین. یک جان تشکر. خداوند انشاءالله براتان خیر دنیا و آخرت نصیب کنه و امیدوار هستیم که در جریان سخنرانی هم خاموشی را همچنان حفظ کنین. Without further ado, please welcome our dear brother Dr. Shakil Virjee to the member with a loud salawat. We also have a workshop for kids aged between 5 and 10. If you have kids aged between 5 and 10, they can attend the workshop in the classroom, in the cafeteria. کسایی که اطفال بین سن 5 تا 10 سال دارن، برشان سمینار آموزشی در صنف درسی در نظر گرفته شده، اونا میتونن اشتراک کنن.
صلوا على محمد و آل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. Brothers and sisters, we just had iftar. If we were still fasting, I can understand why the salawat was hardly heard. Let's have a salawat of those who have broken their fast. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين أما بعد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتاب مبين والقرآن المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. My dear brothers and sisters, Salamun Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. As we are congratulating each other for the beginning of this month of Shahr Ramadan, I wonder how many of us, when we were told that we are coming to the end of the month of Sha'ban, were thinking about Ramadan with a little bit of concern that we are going to be entering a month which is going to be physically and mentally very, very challenging for us, because we don't live in a Muslim society where the month of Ramadan is celebrated in a completely different way. The lifestyle in Muslim communities changes and adapts to the month of Ramadan. You find that people, during the daytime, the shops are closed, nobody is working, people wake up for Salatul Zuhr, and they pray, and maybe some will rest, some will open their shops up. But the main events, the celebration, the activities in these Muslim communities happen at night after iftar. And the whole month goes there, but people actually look forward in Muslim communities to the month of Ramadan because it brings people socially together, and it is a month in which there is a spiritual enlightenment in the Muslim society. But we don't live in a Muslim society. We live in the Western society, whereby our Ramadan has to adapt to the lifestyle over here. Makes it very hard because our schedules don't change. We're working. Even if we wake up for suhoor and we are planning to do some of the acts of worship during the night, it affects us in the morning when we wake up. I missed my cup of coffee this morning. I was like, I had a little bit of a headache today, in the beginning of the day. Why? Because I'm not used to it. This is a breakage of habits, but I have to adapt to the Western society. But my dear brothers and sisters, one thing is for sure, that nothing changes about the nature of this month wherever we are and however you and I practice it. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. In a hadith, he says that verily the gates of heavens are open on the first night of the month of Ramadan and are not closed until the last night of the month of Ramadan. Now this is something for you and I, it's quite difficult to imagine the gates of heaven. We have no idea what that means. But suffice it to say, for our ability to understand what these gates of heavens mean, it means that my ability to connect this world of mine to the world of the hereafter has become linked together. I am now able to take a charger and plug it into me to get recharged again spiritually. That's what it means by the gates of heaven are open for this entire month. And the thing is that if this cable remains connected for the entire month, there is a potential for you and I to be recharged for the entire year after that, provided we take advantage of this new charge that this month of Ramadan brings to us. In another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if the servant was to fathom, he was to imagine and to understand the worth of this month of Ramadan, he would wish that Ramadan would last for the entire year, that it would never finish. Now, when we think about it, and we're already thinking Eid and what's going to happen after Eid, you know, one would try and jump over this month of Ramadan, and perhaps our thoughts are affected by the fact that we only think of the month of Ramadan in terms of what we are going to go through in terms of hunger and thirst and lack of sleep and all of these kind of things. That's the hurdle that you and I think about constantly during this month. And that makes us lack the understanding that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is implying in this hadith, that if we only understood and we only knew what this month was, we would wish that it would never end. And the question becomes now, my dear brothers and sisters, that what is so special about this month? A month which in the last sermon of the month of Shaban, on the Friday of the last Friday of the month of Shaban, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam addressed, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, when he was addressing his small audience, which is what we have here today, a small audience, he said to them that this month has the best of days, the best of nights, the best of time, any hours that you could think of. This month has the best of everything in it. And he says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it so lenient and so easy for each and every one of us that he said that every breath that we take during this month is like we are doing tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every breath. You don't even have to make an effort. Every sleep during this month while we are fasting is considered an act of worship during this month. Effortless. Here, my dear brothers and sisters, you can try and say that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you and I is that if I am valuable to you, yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you value me and you value liqa Allah, the meeting with me, and you value what in return I am able to give to you, then this month I have made it so easy that you'll practically have to do nothing in order to connect with me. I'm making it so easy for you to connect with me. It almost seems like you would have to want to not connect with Allah. You have to make an effort not to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this month. But everything that you do that is halal is connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this month. And that is the precious value of this month that I want to try and illustrate today, my dear brothers and sisters. Why? Because I know from my own experience and the experience of those people that I know who go through this month, the difficulties that they face until the end of the month of Ramadan, it would be such a sad thing that you go through this entire exercise during this month, and at the end of the month, your achievement is nothing. You didn't achieve anything during this month. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this month is actually doing one thing. He is filling our spiritual credit card with funds. He is monetizing our spirituality during this month. And then He's giving us the opportunity to take these funds and to use it for something that we wish, and we will try and discuss it in a minute. You know, if you put a little child, a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, in a toy store, with everything there is just toys, how is this little child going to react? All they see is all of these fun things that they could own and they could buy. Because Allah says, everything is free for you. Because this is a month of a banquet. I have invited each and every one of you. You know, the thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it so that you and I have become worthy of being His guests during this month. Doesn't matter what I did in the past. Doesn't matter how good or how bad I was in the past. Allah says, I'm not even looking at your race. I'm not looking at your ibadat. I'm not looking at the sins that you have committed. I don't care. This party is open for everyone. Anybody can come and attend. And whatever that I have ready to give you this month is open for everybody, provided you want to go and you want to get it. So the example that I was just using, you put a little child in a toy store, he goes crazy. He'll grab this toy and that toy and this toy and that toy. A few minutes later, after he's played with all these toys, he forgets about them. We see that every time whenever we buy little gifts for our children, we buy toys for them. They play with it for a day or two, for a couple of hours. Then after that, you have to force them to play with those toys. But at the time when those toys became available for them to get, they were excited. They were really happy to go and get them. But the value of their toys diminishes after they have used it. Is that how we want to approach and enter this banquet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And you have to ask this question. Or do we want to enter this banquet like that greedy person? That person who can never have enough out of life. He just goes and he grabs everything without even studying the value of it. He just grabs and grabs and grabs and grabs and doesn't even evaluate the value of what it is that he's grabbing. And after a while, those gifts that he grabs, maybe they will be useful to that person for a few days, maybe a few years. But he cannot do anything with that he has grabbed once he goes into the next world. It's useless for him when he goes to the next world. Or do we want to enter this banquet thoughtfully, intelligently, studying studiously, trying to find those things that are valuable in this month and latch on to them because of two things. One is that they are going to be useful for us in this life as well as in the akhirah. This is what the month of Ramadan and the banquet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my dear brothers and sisters, is getting ready to offer us. It's not a month where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the tyrant king, wants the creation that he has created to suffer for 1 month. No. Pain of hunger, the difficulties of thirst, the inconveniences of this month are not going to kill you and me. You're not going to die from it. But it's going to build us. It's going to build our character. The biggest enemy that we have that hinders us from trying to grab things that are of utter value to you and I is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who tries to create waswas within us, tries and creates doubts within us, and takes us away into the wrong direction. You and I all know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Shaitan. He's the one who's going to influence in another way. And we're going to talk about a few things, inshallah, in the next couple of minutes. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The ayah of the Quran that I just cited, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to you and I. O you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. There are some mufassirin who said that just the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses us, you and I directly, is a place for us to be, a place of honor for us. So he says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykumus siyam, that I have prescribed for you, I have ordained for you the fast. Kama kutiba alladhina min qablikum, like I had ordained it for those before. I guess there were people before us who used to indulge in fasting. And there is, we don't want to get into it right now, but there is a way of fasting amongst the Christians and the Abrahamic religions where they were fasting as well. So Allah said that I have ordained this to you, like I ordained it for the people before you. Why? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can become God conscious. Now, taqwa is that God consciousness in discipline, where you and I have to just conduct ourselves in our lives, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching and we are going to be accountable to Him at the end of time, so that whatever we decide to do or whatever we decide not to do, we know that we are going to be held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To build that character within us of being God conscious at all times. The societies and the places that we live in right now takes us away from God consciousness, and what it teaches us or what it has programmed us to become is not God conscious but self-conscious. All of us, think about it. We are less God conscious, but we are more self-conscious. What are they going to say about me if I wear these clothes? What are people thinking about me? If I buy this car or I buy this expensive house, people will think that I'm rich, and I want people to think I am that. So we have become more and more self-conscious. If you go and ask, a young person, what do you want to become in your life? They will say they want to become such and such a thing, which is a good thing. But they want to go from this point to the next point without doing any work. They don't want to do any hard work to get there. And what ends up happening is they judge their lives today based on where they want to be later on in life. And if they feel that, no, I'm having a hard time in school, I'm having a hard time in college, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm a failure, the self-consciousness starts to affect them in a way that they start to lose their self-respect, they start to feel like they're a failure. Stress, anxiety, mental illness, all kinds of problems start to get into them, and they try to find escapes for this. One of the problems somebody told, inshallah, at some other time we'll discuss this, drug addiction, which is something that is becoming pandemic in our society today, is because of these types of situations where people feel like they want to do something to escape from reality. And for the few moments that they are under the effects of these harmful drugs, they feel happy. But they don't realize that after the effect is gone, they're going to come right back to the same place. Allah is saying, be conscious of me, and you will become free. You will not have to worry about anything. You are going to go on this ride very, very smoothly. And I'm going to tell you how to combat this enemy of yours, the shaitan. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I was listening to a speech by Sheikh Shomali, a very famous Iranian scholar I think he's in the UK. And he was quoting from the book that he had read, and I'm taking basically from the speech, that he gave by Mullah Mohsin Faith Kashani, who was a famous philosopher in Iran, near Kashan. I think Kashan is like 200 or so kilometers from Tehran somewhere. But a very, very famous philosopher. He was in Iran and was known in around the 16th century. So he, based on hadith, based on Quran, based on his teachers, Mullah Sadra was one of his teachers as well, came up with this idea about fasting, and which I'm going to share with you. And inshallah, this will hopefully enlighten both me and you into preparation and going through this month of Ramadan, inshallah. He says that whenever mankind succumbs to their animalistic desires, which includes food and water, these are desires that are innate within us. And if we cannot control ourselves, it's a problem. Just when mankind falls, towards these animalistic desires, they are equal in terms of their nature, like the animals that roam around the world. They do the same thing. The minute there's there's food anywhere and there's an animal there, they're going to go and attack. They're going to jump on the food. They don't care whether it belongs to them or it doesn't belong to them. They just eat and just live their lives based on these low desires of theirs. So he said, this is it. But it says that when a person is able to fight their low desires, they start to rise to the level of the angels. Now, who are angels? Angels have zero desires. They have no desires at all. So angels will not succumb to anything but whatever function that they have been created for. So Faiz Kashani is saying that if fasting is only able to make you achieve this much, a mi'raj, a rising from your animalistic self to an angelic self, this by itself is enough. This by itself is an achievement during this month of Ramadan. So this is one of the things, my dear brothers and sisters, when you see food in front of you and you are hungry, when you see drink in front of you and you are thirsty, and you say, I'm not going to drink it, you are now taking charge, of yourself. In continuation, Faith Kashani is saying, the spirit and the secret of fasting is to weaken the faculties that is used by shaitan. All of our low desires, any of our low desires, as soon as you start tilting towards them, you are just inviting shaitan now to join into your life and join in the party with you to go in. So Faiz Kashani is saying that the minute you start doing, you are weakening these faculties by self-control, in which you are completely dispelling the influences of shaitan. He furthermore goes to says that, remember one thing, Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says that the worst container that you can work on trying to fill is the stomach. This is the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Says, sometimes we call ourselves foodies, like I like a hamburger, and we like barbecue, and we like all kinds of food. And if we tend to go in our lives just following that particular path, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, you're following a path that is going to fill the worst possible container that is within you. Just don't think about that. And I'll come to that in a second. So the worst container that you're going to fill is that. And then Faiz Kashani is saying, fasting detaches the soul from worldly desires. This is one of the exercises or one of the benefits that comes through fasting. It starts to disconnect you from the worldly desire, because you are entering into a state where the muharrimat you cannot do. And it takes you gradually away while you are hungry and while you are thirsty, building this discipline of being able to resist temptations. And he says that the heart will become polished as a result of that, and it will become purified as a result of that. And he says, without even trying, your outward self and your inner self is going to start to flourish and to start to develop in a positive way. Sayyid Faith Kashani is saying, the journey to become an insane kamil, an accomplished human being, these are the exercises that you and I have to endeavor in. So he says, the outward and the inward will start developing. You will develop the nature of shukr for all the ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you. Faiz Kashani is saying. Because if you are unable to do shukr to all the ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you, what are you becoming? You're becoming arrogant. You're becoming like, I did this, I earned this is mine. Faiz Kashani is saying that you start fasting and you start, dispelling shaitan from your life, humility will start developing, humbleness will start developing inside you, and you will develop this ability to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the ni'mah. You will also develop empathy towards the poor people, because you will understand the pains of hunger, you will understand the pains of thirst. And when you see a thirsty person and you see a hungry person, your heart will melt and you will start, you will walk towards trying to help them. Your heart becomes softened. It's easier for you to cry for forgiveness. It'll become easier for you to weep, in the talab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of being hard-hearted. Faiz Kashani also says that as you move in this direction, you start taking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a very important things start to develop. Because of your trust and your complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your stress, your worries, and your anxieties start to diminish. They start to drop down. You start to becoming more confident in a way. He says then your hisab on the day of judgment will become easier and your rewards will be increased. And then Faiz Kashani You know, he makes a statement at this end. He says that I can go on and on and on and on and on. The list is exhaustive for the benefits of fasting during this month. But he says this, what he has written in this paragraph, says it's enough for you to understand the benefits of this month. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, we can go through this month through fasting. Okay, the 30 days of fasting that you and I will accomplish, inshallah, everybody will accomplish. And the way the fast is completed is that you avoid all of those things that break the fast. Anything that is considered that this thing will break your fast, like eating, like drinking, like swearing on the, lying on behalf of the Ahlul Bayt, things like that. You know, getting into intimate relationships during fast. All of these things are muharrimat. You stay away from all of this, your fast will be complete. But there is an argument for that. That there is a difference between a fast being acceptable and a fast being beneficial. An accepted fast, where you avoid the muharrimat and all that, means that you perform the obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you completed it. So you are not committing any sins. But he says you need to rise to a different level, my dear brothers and sisters. He says this fasts, this month of Ramadan, has to be practiced in a way that is beneficial to you. It has some faida to you. Because if there is no faida in the fasting, then what will happen at the end of the month? We will just have practiced staying hungry from sunrise to sunset for 30 days or 29 days. That's all we have achieved. Nothing else. Nothing else. So, all of us have weaknesses. All of us have weaknesses. There's nobody here that doesn't have any weakness. The first thing that you and I should start thinking about during this month, my dear brothers and sisters, is to eliminate these weaknesses. If I have a bad habit, I need to start saying, you know, this is the month in which I'm going to stop doing whatever it is that I do that is haram or unacceptable. Start working on little mini projects in your life so that you can benefit from this month. And the thing is, it's going to be easy to do it because of the fast, because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this month. Once you are able to work on those things that you say that I'm not going to, you know, whatever bad things that I have, I'm going to eliminate this, then work on trying to add things that you don't do on a normal time. If you delay Salatul Fajr, start reciting and say that from now onwards, I'm going to not delay Salatul Fajr anymore. Pick things, pick realistic things. Don't go and say, I'm going to recite the Quran, you know, 12 siparas every day. It's unrealistic. Don't do anything unrealistic. Pick realistic things that you can achieve during this month and start putting that into the discipline, you know, of your lives. Not that you, at the end of Ramadan, you stop doing it. Those of us who are doing certain things, you know, elevate it. If you don't recite Tahajjud, start reciting Tahajjud. Don't have to do it every day. Once a week, once a month. Start practicing to do that. Add things, you know, because these are the times, my dear brothers and sisters, that you and I can develop a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not only that, for the rest of the year, enhance and we build upon it. So the message that I have for today, my dear brothers and sisters, bi'izni ta'ala, is basically this, that celebrate the month. Don't look at this month as a month of problems for yourself. Or, you know, this hunger and this sleep and all of this. Don't do that. Accept it. Because human beings only develop to their fullest potential when they are able to endure difficulties, when they are able to endure hardships, and when they are able to go through them. That's how you and I, we develop. If there is no problems, there is no development. So fasting during this month, my dear brothers, is a discipline that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, not out of, this is not a test for us. This is a gift for us. The way He describes, the way Rasulullah describes it, that effortlessly, we can start climbing and rising to the highest levels, you know, that we possibly can. So, brothers and sisters, take advantage of this month. Recite the Quran. Recite the Quran. If you don't have time to recite tafsir and meaning, recite it. Just recite it. The barakat of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a positive effect on you and I. You know, when people say that take a glass of water, recite Alhamd, blow into it and drink it, this will give you shafa. These are not fairy tales. These are real things. They are not fairy tales. They are not fake things. They are not unrealistic things. Remember, when Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, when he was sick, his whole body was affected. How did his cure come? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to bathe in a well that was there nearby. He said, through this water, you will receive shafa. And the Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam had worms sticking out of his body. He was that sick. And just this water, just washing with this water, cured him completely. So recitation of the Quran, my dear brothers, has positive benefits for you and I. And let's pick things and let's practice things during this month, you know, to try and get to the fullest development. You know, today was the first fast. By the time we get to the 20th fast, we will be entering into the nights of Qadr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed these nights of Qadr at the end of Ramadan. And my guess, my logical conclusion about that is that during the first 20 days of Shahr Ramadan, you and I have developed enough enough ascension spirituality, okay, to start being able to enter into these nights of Qadr and maximizing the effects of these days during the last few days of Shahr Ramadan. With that, my dear brothers and sisters, let us raise our hands and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this a blessed month for all of us, a beneficial month for all of us, a month in which charity is highly, highly recommended, that we are able to give charity and do good for each other, inshallah. And in this month, my dear brothers and sisters, you know, to try and avert the effects of shaitan in our lives and to develop in the best way that we possibly can. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma adkhil ala ahli al-qubur as-surur. Allahumma aghni kulla faqir. Allahumma ashbih kulla ja'ih. Allahumma aksu kulla uryan. Allahumma akzi dayna kulli madeen. Allahumma farrij an kulli makroob. Allahumma rudda kulla gharib. Allahumma fukka kulla asir. Allahumma aslih kulla fasid min umuri al-muslimin. اللهم اشفي كل مريض اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك اللهم اغض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير صلوا على محمد وآل محمد